Hey everybody, so here is our last lesson before April break. I know you guys, I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. So today we're going to talk about composition of functions. So a composition of a function, it's actually considered the fifth operation. So adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. We thought that was the only four, but this is the fifth one. And the whole idea is a composition is where you plug a function into another function. So notice the notation is a small circle. So don't get confused between multiplication, which is a dot, and the tiny circle. So this is composition. And we are plugging G into F. So the one on the right is the inside function. So the one on the right is the inside function, and then F is the outside function. So I'm taking G and I'm plugging it into F. So for example, if F of X is X plus 9, and G of X is 2X, it's basically a substitution. F of G of X, we're taking G of X, think about in Algebra 1, and I'm substituting it in for X. So it would be 2X plus 9. We're not going to get really into these today. We're going to focus more on substituting with numbers. But that's the basic idea with composition. You're taking a function and plugging it into another function, like when we solve systems of equations using substitution. Okay, so F of G of 9, we always use F, the word of. So F of G of. So what I typically do is I'm going to start with my inside. Right? So over here, I'm going to write inside. So my inside is G of 9. So G of 9 is the square root of 9 plus 8. So that gives me 3 plus 8, which is 11. I'm going to take that answer and replace my G of 9 with that. So now I'm going to find F of, not G of 9, 11. So F of 11 is 3 times 11 plus 13. 33 plus 13 is 46. Okay? All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, but notice I switched the order. So now I'm going to do G of F of 4. So we start with our inside. Oh, and you know what? I usually write outside over here. Outside. So my inside is F of 4. So F of 4 equals 3 times 4 plus 13. So that's 25. And I'm going to take that and I'm replacing F of 4 with that. And then I'm going to do my outside and I'm going to find G of 25. G of 25 is the square root of 25 plus 8, which is 13. So notice our two answers are different. So for the left one, I got 46 as my answer. The right one, I get 13. So they're not commutative. They're not commutative. You cannot reverse the order of the functions. All right, so pause the video and do this one on your own. These are absolute values. When I typed them out, it came out kind of weird looking, but that's an absolute value. I don't know if that helped. All right, so I got my in. My in is G, so G of negative 2. And then my out is going to be F of something. So G of negative 2 is 1/2. Negative 6 minus 4. So that's 1/2 times 10 is 5. So then I take my 5 and I plug that in here. Then I'm finding F of 5. So that's 25 plus 4, which gives me 29 as my final answer. Right? 5 is not the answer. 5 is just to help find the answer. Okay, so in here, in, out. So my in is F this time. My out is G. So for F of -2, I get 4 plus 4, which is 8. That 8 then gets plugged into G. G of 8, that's 1/2 times 24 minus 4. So 1/2 times 20 is 10. And that's my final answer. All right, pause the video. Try it on your own. So my in is G, G of 7. My out is F, F of something. So G of 7, that's 7 minus 9 over 7 plus 5, -2 over 12, -1/6. I'm going to take that, plug that into F. Ugh, this is a gross problem. 3 plus 1/6. All right, so let's see, 18, this is 18 over 6. So we get 2, the square root of 18 over 6. Just kidding, 19 over 6 because we have to add the 1. Let's see, rationalize the denominator. 2, let's see, 19 times 6, 54, 114 all over 6. So I get the square root of 114 over 3 is my final answer. Well, that was gross. Oh well. All right, in F of 7, out G of something. Let's see, F of 7, 2, the square root of 3 minus 7. 2, the square root of -4, so that's 4i. So we're going to stop. We do not, when you're talking about functions, so it's not in the domain. So 7 is not in the domain. Right? We don't deal with imaginary numbers when we're talking domain and range. 7's not in the domain, so we're just going to stop and say there's no solution, right? No real solution. So here's the idea. Here's a picture of it. When you're doing when you're doing a composition of functions, if we're doing f of g of x, right? We always start with g, right? We start with our g. So g is here. You start with your domain of g, and then you get your range. Then you get the range. But the range and the range of g and the domain of f have to overlap. Otherwise, you're going to get something like, oh, I found g of 7 was 2, but then when I tried to plug 2 into the other function, it doesn't work. So there's issues with the domain and range. The domain and the range must match up. Otherwise, we're going to end up doing things like restricting the domain. And we're going to get to that after April break. We'll talk about what that means with restricting domain, and that is a thing that has to happen sometimes. All right, so here's just a different type of problem. I love these. I just think they're fun. So we're going to start with the inside, g of 4. So remember, this is my x value. So my x value is 4, so I'm going to go to g, and I look for the x value 4. It's right here. What's the y value? 5. So that means I'm now going to find f of 5. So now I'm going to go up to my f, look for the x value 5. It's right here. So my answer is -6. So this is where domain and range are really important, because what if 5 wasn't an x value in f? You couldn't solve the problem. All right, I'm going to do one more for you. F of 5, so I'm going to start here, f of 5. So I go up to f, look for the x value 5, That's my -6. So I'm going to plug that into G. So G of -6 equals, go to G, look for -6, I get 2. G of -6, my y value is 2. So notice this is a y value for f, but then it's the y value for G, right? 5 is a y value in G, but then it turns into an x value. So that's the whole thing where the range of this has to be the domain of f. All right, pause the video, try the next two on your own. All right, so G of -6, G of -6 is 2, f of 2 is 7. F of 2 is 7. G of 7 is 4. And that's it. We're done. All right, last one. So these, same idea, but these were focused on the graph. So G is red, right? So G is red, underline the red, and the F is the blue. So I'm going to start, remember this is an X value, and we're looking for a Y value. G of -2, I'm going to go to -2 on the X-axis, go up to my red graph, 1, 2, and it's 2. So G of -2 is 2. So now I'm going to find F of 2. Now that 2 is now our X value. So I'm going to go to the X value 2, and it's actually on the graph right now. The Y value is 0. All right, why don't you pause the video and try the next two on your own. So F of 3, so I'm going to go to the X value 3. What is what is the Y value of blue, right? Because we're talking F. -1. G of -1 equals, I go to -1, and this time I'm going to G. G is the red function, 1, 2, 3. So notice that if I tried to reverse this, F of G of 3, I would have an issue there, because if I go to 3, I have no idea based on the graph what G of 3 is. So we'd have to figure, we would need the function. We wouldn't be able to do it on the graph. So that would be really hard. We'd have to look at the graph, figure out what the actual equation is, to try to figure out what is that value. We wouldn't know what to do. All right, last one, F of 1. So go to 1. F is blue, so up to, and I get 1. And then G of 1 is -1. And that's it. So not too hard. I think these are easy. I really enjoy these. I think they're kind of fun. But that's the basic idea with composition when you're plugging a number in. So your last homework is a worksheet. I would really love it if you got it to me before vacation starts. So if you get to me tomorrow, that would be fabulous. Have a great vacation. Try to behave. Not that you can go anywhere and misbehave, but you know. All right, take care, guys.